Hello, traders. Welcome to this live webinar here with FXDD on the value of the fractal indicator for specifically Forex trading. Although I think the fractal has its value in all charts and analysis, to be honest. But because I'm focused on Forex trading, I will share my 2 cents and thoughts about the fractal indicator in relationship to Forex. So let's start with this live webinar here. First of all, as always, though, before taking a look at the presentation that I prepared, this risk disclaimer, it explains the fact that trading for exchange and global financial markets is considered high risk and may not be suitable for everyone. Please seek the advice of an independent financial advisor for more information on that. And this webinar is for informational and educational purposes only. All right, thank you for your attention on that. So I'm going to share a few slides here, and then I'm going to dive into actual live charts at this moment to show how I use the fractal, why I think it's beneficial, why I think it's a good indicator. But before we do that, I need to explain what is the fractal. First of all, fractal is a concept, mathematical concept, that basically explains the fact that we see patterns occur on all kind of scales, and those patterns are the same. So that could be a snowflake that has the same pattern as the flake. We'll have the flake in the flake, if I remember correctly, or certainly so with, for instance, some of these flowers and other natural objects that you can sometimes see on the planet here, Earth, of course. So it is basically a repetition of a pattern, same kind of pattern repeating itself on all kind of time scale, all kind of scales, excuse me. Now that happens also with the Forex market. That's why I say time frames. So the scale of 5-minute chart, the scale of 30-minute chart, or 4-hour chart, patterns repeat in a similar fashion. That is what fractal stands for. Fractal is often connected to chaos theory. Now, I won't bore you too much with it about that, and I'm also not a mathematical expert. But chaos theory basically explains the fact, as far as I understand at least, that random events we can actually explain with more precision than first assumed. So although they look random and look difficult to predict, it is actually more predictable than expected. One of those examples is actually weather. Now, you might think weather is not so accurate. Nowadays, it is. I read in a book about forecasting that weather forecasts in most stations are very, very accurate. And if there's a 30% chance of rain, there's actually, on the days that have 30% chance, 3 out of 10 days it will rain, and 7 out of 10 it will not. So the precision is very high at this moment. And traffic jams, understanding traffic flow, all of that is also very much predictable. And I think, from my point of view, the markets, at least the charts, are similar. Now, there is a border until when the forecast and analysis can be done accurately. With weather, that is 7 days. After 7 days, the accuracy rapidly decreases, and you're better off with the climate average than looking at a forecast, because there's so many factors in those 7 days that could impact the weather in between today and 7 days from now, that it's difficult to look that far ahead. So I think that's the same is valid for looking at the charts. I think that short term, it's the easiest to understand whether a trade is going to work out or not. But if the trade is open for a long time, maybe more than 7 candles, for instance, as well, then the original analysis is not as strong, because new information has arrived, new candles appear, and that will impact the chances, the probability of that trade working out or not. That is why I think active trade management is also a better route for traders than passive ones, if you have the time. And of course, it does require some experience. Now, let's set all that aside. Fractal, what does that practically mean? So one thing is that patterns that we see on the chart repeat. Chart patterns, wave patterns, candlestick patterns, they're not only visible on 4-hour chart. We see them all over the place. I could show you a couple of different charts and we would not be able to recognize whether that's a 5-minute chart or a daily chart, unless you know the chart, otherwise, unless you recognize it, of course. So these patterns occur all over the place. That's one thing. Second of all, thanks to Bill Williams, a famous trader, is that there's the fractal indicator. That basically it's an indicator that is on the chart, and it shows spots where a price is making a fractal, a pivot point. So that is a support or resistance indicator. So I'm going to dive into that a little bit more. So before I do that, actually, I just want to add one thing about the fact that patterns are visible everywhere on all time frames. It does show basically that these patterns repeat throughout history. The patterns don't always play out as we expect, but they are visible, and we can, from trading point of view, we can trade them basically inexchangeably on all kind of different time frames. It would some of course will take longer. If I'm trading a pattern on a weekly chart, obviously that's going to take longer than trading it on a 50-minute chart. Now, fractal indicator basically means that there's one candle high or candle low that is kind of an extreme out of 5 candles, group of 5 candles. That's the standard fractal indicator on the MT4 and probably the MT5 platform. That automatically looks for spots, candle highs and candle lows. The candle high is the highest out of a group of 5 candles, and the candle low is the lowest out of a group of 5 candles. That's it. Once we have that is a fractal. That is basically a key kind of turning spot, a key support or resistance zone or level. Now, there could be 1,000 candles to the left and 1,000 to the right. That doesn't matter. It's only about the minimum number of candles. So 3 to the left, 3 to the right that are lower than the middle candle, that's fine. Doesn't matter. As you can see here, for instance, this fractal has a lot of candles to the left, whereas this candle only a few candles. All right, but in both cases, they're fractals. What are not fractals are these candles here, falling here. Why? Because they are continuous lower lows and continuous higher lows, and none of these candles has a high or low where that low is lower than 2 candles to the left and 2 candles to the right. So that one doesn't qualify. That's why when you look at this chart, they are fractal here and here and here, 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 here. So you can see now that all candles have fractals. These are my personal fractals. So these circles and diamonds are fractals, by the way. You will not see them on the standard MT4. Standard MT4 are kind of like roofs. Sorry, they're actually rooftops, excuse me. Or 4 fractals above the candle high, or rooftops, opposite rooftops below the candles. Now, so if you see a fractal above the candle high, that's a resistance fractal. If you see a fractal below the candle low, that's a support fractal. The fractal, where the fractal is placed, is not important. So it doesn't matter where the fractal indicator is. What is important is the candle high that of the candle that has a fractal, or the candle low. So the key level is the candle low or high, not where physically the fractal is located. So if I see a fractal, that means that candle is a fractal candle, but I'm going to look at the candle high or the low for support or resistance. All right, so this candle was not a fractal because there was only one candle to the right. There were plenty of candles to the left, but only one candle to the right. So that's not a fractal. Okay. This current fractal that's open can only become a fractal high because the low doesn't have a lower low to the left. So that will never be a fractal. But this high could be. There are a lot of candles to the left. So only 2 candles to the right that are lower highs, that would make this already a fractal. that candle high would be a fractal. So I hope everything is clear so far. So what are the benefits? Going to move on. Support of resistance levels, breakout spots, and bounce spots are the main benefits. Connecting trend lines. Some other benefits could be connecting trend lines, understanding the trend, spotting the key levels quicker as well. Now, what I like to do is look at fractals in relationship to the 21 EMA and 144 EMA. So that's my specific method. I also look at fractal levels that are not, let's say, not the typical level 2. So level 2, the value 2 is 2 candles to the left and 2 candles to the right. That is the standard kind of a fractal level that is used on MT4. That was developed by Bill Williams for commodity charts, daily commodity charts. I think for Forex specifically, this level, these value 2 is okay, but I also like to work with a value of 6 and 13, because I think that those fractals have, for the Forex trading, more value than only the value 2. So that means 6 candles to the left, 6 candles to the right. All right. So besides different fractal levels, fractal values, I also use the fractal versus 21 EMA and 144 EMA. So what I look at is the fractal candle sailing above the 21 EMA? Resistance, for instance, here we have the resistance fractal of a candle that's sailing above the 20 EMA here too. That is a strong trend if that happens. Do I see a support fractal that is also above the 20 EMA, or at least in the 20 EMA, like here? That typically is also part of a strong trend. Whereas if the support fractal is below the 20 EMA, that could indicate some bigger retracement, like here and here. That's what we got. This is still in the 20 EMA. I mean, I'm talking really about, some push like this, okay? Here too, this was a push in the opposite direction, indicating a bigger push up instead. Here also, we got a bigger push down. Then there's the fractal at the 144 EMA. That is typically key for trend continuation or reversal. So if there's a fractal at the 144 EMA and price bounces away from this fractal and doesn't break through it, that could indicate still a trend continuation. Whereas if price were to break through the fractal at the 144 EMA like this, like here, all right, that could indicate a bigger reversal. So the fractal at the 144 EMA here and here, right? Very important to understand. If price doesn't go through that fractal, it could be a bounce and trend continuation. If it does go through that fractal, if it were to go through, price would have gone through this fractal lower, downwards, through the support, that could have been a reversal. All right, so let me share now. Hang on, folks. The charts. 1 second. Alrighty. So these fractals will appear. Now, these are my own personal fractals. So they have a little bit more information about, they already incorporate that information of fractal versus moving average. That's the main difference. Now, if you would use a normal fractal, I'll show it to you. Hang on. Fractals. So you go to Insert Indicators, Williams Fractals. You can change the color, but you cannot change the level, and you'll see rooftops like that. So that's plenty of information just there. You already you understand where pivot points are. You understand where bounce spots are and breakout spots. So price, breaking through these fractals, breakout to the downside, and here we had again fractals at the 144 EMA. So break above that, indicating a reversal. Here, price actually bouncing at the 21 EMA, here too. Then here we actually saw price break through this support fractal, indicating a bigger correction. So not all fractals are necessarily going to work well as entries, but and that's certainly something that I wouldn't necessarily do. But if you find the fractals at the 21 and 144 EMA, those are, I think, certainly fractals that are more valuable. And of course, if I do my analysis and then I find a certain potential trade interesting, either as a bounce or break, then I can use the fractal as a trigger or as a level that I use for placing a pending order. Okay, so I'm not going to take all the trades upon every single fractal break. I don't think that would work, but I can filter out the fractals that I think have the most value by using the 21 and 144 EMA, and also by using discretionary analysis, of course. Okay, so my own fractals have a little bit more information encoded in them because you see circles and you see diamonds. Now, the circles indicate basically resistance in a downtrend if they're above price. Diamonds indicate that the trend is down at this moment because they're red diamonds below candle. Okay, whereas green diamonds indicate uptrend and the circles below the candle indicate pullbacks within the uptrend. And the black circles here indicate that the fractals at the 144 EMA. Now, there are also different color codes. As you can see, dark green indicates full trend continuation. Light green indicates potential pullback. That's happened here, as you can see. Light green, light green, light green, 3 in a row, indicating pullback. Blue indicates not only pullback, but potential deeper retracement. And that's what happened too. Blue, look, blue, deeper retracement happened. Okay. So warning, warning, big warning, warning, big warning, warning. And then we finally got the trend continuation. Then we got full green fractals back, indicating trend likely to continue again. Now, it doesn't work perfect here. I didn't get any one warning, but ultimately you got a deeper move back. But that's basically the gist of it. Now, same thing for downside. Pink and orange indicate pink is small warning, orange is big warning. So here's orange, for instance. And the circles have the same kind of value. The darker blue indicates a bigger pullback. The lighter blue indicates a smaller pullback. So light blue is small pullback like this. Dark blue is a bigger pullback. So typically bigger pullbacks mean that there's a better chance of price continuing lower, a bit less risky. And once again, those darker circles indicating key levels at the 144 EMA. All right, now this happens on all time frames. All right, so when I see this chart, for instance, okay, here we go. To me, key fractal levels, obviously here, 3 fractals, 3 green fractals. So if price pushes through that, likely breakout continuation. Here too, another 2 levels. So those are all key levels for upside. And that's what happened. Nice move to the upside. Here another level. And here another level. Those are key fractals. So when price breaks above that, there's a good chance of breakout continuation. Even on the euro dollar earlier today at 110.83. All right, so all of these are good breakout to me. Now, here we had a dark circle support. So when that was confirmed somewhere in here, moving average is aligned. That is, with such a strong price action as well, on top of that, likely to be then a bouncing spot rather than a reversal spot. Okay. Whereas, for instance, here there were 2 dark fractals. So when price broke through that, that indicated a likely reversal rather than a trend, rather than a downtrend continuation when price was able to push through these fractals here. Okay. It also helps, filter out trades that didn't continue. So at this moment, price was still in a downtrend. And price made it upside, hit the 144 EMA, bounced back, but ultimately didn't break through these fractals, so didn't confirm that downtrend continuation. Okay. Now at the end of the trend, of course, there could be some fractal breaks like here that don't go all that really don't go too far, as you can see. So at the end of the trend, there might be fractal breaks that really don't have a follow through that much. So that's something to be aware of. Let me see if I can find a different time, time frame. Let's take a look at maybe the 50-minute chart. All right. Any questions, by the way, so far? Now, 50-minute chart, of course, the volatility will vary depending on logical kind of timing things. The pound dollar moves the most in the London session, not so much in between the New York and New Zealand session, when there's a gap, for instance, right? So, or even in the New Zealand session, obviously, those are logical kind of intraday timing elements to be aware of. But otherwise, the logic of the fractals works very well. As you can see here, there we go. Key levels, breakout again, continuation. Same here. Very good breakout with the green diamonds indicating the trend, right? As well. So clear breakout as well. But the opposite is also valid. So for instance, now these support fractals here. These support fractals here, right? Now they indicate bounce within the 20 MA, but that's what I said. You got to keep in mind that somewhere around 2 a.m. London time, there's not going to be much movement. So officially a bounce, but it's not the right time to consider a bounce with the trend at that moment. That would happen later when the London session is open. That's what happened here when price clearly bounces off the 21 EMA here. But a fractal, for instance, on lower time frame, maybe on a 5-minute chart, you can see it a bit better perhaps. Hang on. So for instance, one second, folks. Bit confused. 1 second. That was already, sorry. That was longer ago. That's why. Okay. Got it. So yeah, for instance, last week when price made that big upside, here fractals sailing above, support fractals sailing above the 20 MA, also very valuable in indicating that there could be a bounce, basically bounce and continuation, that the momentum is still very strong and still full on the go. That's easier seen on lower time frames here too. Fractals at 21 MA, fractal 20, all bouncing spots basically. All right, now at the end, after London, of course, prices are going to go in a correction, and you can see already some warning signs as price breaks through the 21 EMA, below it, and then it can't break above it, and it makes deeper retracement. Okay. Now, next day, again, support fractals here playing a role in the continuation higher. Okay, so you need to know when to use it. Here, there was a support fractal, but price didn't necessarily continue, right? So in that case, this was just a push up, and the push up, the trend was to the upside was over in that case. So it is something to, it's a factor that plays a role, but yeah, it's not as a standalone thing for me at least. Okay, but here there was a support fractal, and that was worked very nice as a bouncing spot, and then we had a breakout above this key resistance fractal, dark circled fractal at the 143 MA. So the breakout above that indicating the trend continuation. Okay. So for the moment, let's say looking at this 5-minute chart, now although we're getting close to the end of London, but typically this would be a key fractal. Break above that should see price move up. In fact, at this moment, there's already a good chance of price moving up. because it already broke above the 144 EMA again. But you want to use discretionary analysis to understand the chart. And with the end of London, personally, I think it might be better just to wait to see tomorrow morning how it looks like again. But in theory, this key level here, 128.70, should see a breakout to the upside if price pushes through that. If this were earlier in the day, okay. Now with the 1 hour chart, 4 hour chart, daily chart, of course, there's less of concern regarding the daily intraday movement, obviously. So that's something to be aware of. For instance, let's see, let's go to Euro New Zealand, for instance. All right, there we go. You can see green fractals and indeed the trend continuation. And a lot of support fractals here at the 144 EMA and bounces off of that and a continuation higher. So yeah, personally traded this Euro New Zealand to the upside as well, just like the Euro odd, pound yen, pound dollar this week. And part of that has to do with the fact that price was breaking through these fractals here. So I traded this breakout and pullback, in fact. Now I got a little bit, unfortunately, stopped out by this retracement, but otherwise the target of 176.10 would have been easily hit. And in fact, price went a lot further. So part of that was these fractals within the trend and the breakout above that with a good candle here and a good pullback. Pound New Zealand, for instance, let's take a look at that. Here too, fractals, way above the 20 EMA, support fractals, bouncing off of it. All of that indicates uptrend continuation for the moment. Then again, support fractals, resistance fractals, again, a continuation higher. Breakout, nice continuation here, break pullback continuation. And these fractals here at 20 EMA also confirming the further push higher. And all of these fractals here right at the 20 EMA. Now, the difference with this one is that the fractals are way below the 20 EMA, right? So that's already an indication that when price is moving up, that could be rejected because the 20 EMA is already down. Here, the 20 EMA is up. Fractals way deeper. So this was more of a spike and indeed got slammed for one more lower low, as you can see. So that's something to be careful of. Now, can fractals also be for reversals? Yes. For instance, of course, reversals happen less often, but here is a double bottom, for instance. So when price broke through these resistance fractals, that could have been already one way of looking at a potential reversal breakout. Okay, double bottom, and the price going sideways and breaking above these resistance fractals could indicate the opposite trend, for instance. Break above this fractal, these fractals here at the 21 EMA, right? This was a strong upside. That looks like a wave A. This is correction B. So the break above these fractals indicating the continuation of wave C up to the 144 EMA. Again, a reversal breakout. Now, some reversals don't go anywhere. Take a look at this break here, right? Break, boom, back up. So that was just a wick. So, well, that was maybe not a reversal. That was actually with the trend. But so let me see if I can find a reversal example. Here, for instance. So sometimes fractals can be broken by a few pips and still not go anywhere. So that fractal is a level, but it's also a zone at the same time. That's why looking for candlestick confirmations is good, in my view at least. So for instance, here there are two fractals. Waiting for a candle close below it would help. Then I know that I'm waiting for this candle. This I would have avoided, this false break. This with the candle close was the break, or even the one after that. Still good. Okay. This fractal was a dark blue one. That already indicated a deeper correction. So the break of that fractal, not interesting. That fractal is below 21 EMA, below the resistance. So that's not interesting. And indeed, price going sideways and actually reversing rather than with the trend continuation. These fractals are with the trend technically, but below 21 EMA, therefore more risky and not so interesting. These fractals above the 20 EMA and with the trend. These fractals below the 20 EMA and with the trend. So those are typically more interesting. But reversals, of course, do happen. And then using the opposite, the fractals for the opposite reason makes sense at times. Like this, Bruce break, indicating that the reversal indeed starting. The uptrend over, breakthrough through fractals. And these specifically, these two fractals were quite deep below the 20 MA compared to the rest of the fractals. So the break below that, those fractals could indicate a return to the 143 MA. That's what happened. Break below these fractals at the 140 MA, indicating reversal rather than a trend continuation. Now, of course, if this happens, that's more of a range. That's not so interesting. Best to avoid that. So I'm trying to make it as practical as possible, not trying to add that much theory. So I hope that helps. Here you can see, these are fractals with the trend, but below 20 EMA. So that's already indicating deeper retracement. In this case, actually, a total reversal. You can see the counter trend is sometimes dangerous because price broke above these fractals here, but didn't go anywhere that break to the upside. Also, of course, part because there were other fractals just above that. So I'd still continue with one more with one more lower low. But the next fractal break in here did indicate a reversal. So obviously, chart patterns, divergence patterns helping whether price is indeed making a reversal or not, of course. Okay, so I hope that helps. I don't see any questions, so I guess everything is clear. But if not, feel free to join the next FXDD live webinar with myself next week, live trading webinar. I can definitely follow up on any questions, either if you're here live or looking at the YouTube recording. So don't get frustrated if something is not clear. Please just join us in the live webinar and ask follow-up questions. I gladly try to help with clarifying if something I didn't explain clearly enough or I skipped or so that's it. Make sure to join FXDD YouTube channel and of course these live webinars to get more info and more direct analysis from Nennet and myself. Above all, I wish you great trading. I wish you a great day and see y'all very soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.